Well, hello there. Hi, it's TGIF. It's Friday, the 12th of June, 2020. And I've been absent from YouTube for a while because Google and I were having a discussion, but that's over now. And looking at all the sources I have, I do this most of the time. I'm finding that certainty is a very dear commodity right now. I'm finding that the brilliant minds among us have a lot of different opinions about where things are going. And so for my own practice and my own perseverance, I'm watching, okay? I'm listening very carefully. And yes, there are a lot of opinions and predictions and speculations, but that's not going to tell us much. What's going to tell us how we can plan and how we can venture into the future is by indicators. I had a stepfather who learned about the business cycles by reading the want ads. There are indicators that once you get into them, they really imply and insinuate the overall picture. So let's listen and watch for indicators. For instance, have you noticed how peculiar it is with all of the protests and riots that the stock market is becoming very volatile? Okay, we'll notice that. We'll notice that the leftists are being ridiculed and the members of Congress and the governors and so on who are supporting their methods is not just dwindling but becoming silent, which is to say that pushback against a Bolshevik communist revolution is a serious matter to most Americans. It's a serious matter to stop the lawlessness and return to a measure of sanity that we had before this whole pandemic thing got started. All right. What we might notice, and in fact, bring to the attention of our friends on social media or on Twitter, is if you see any military movements in your town, that's a good thing to report in the social media. It gives the rest of us a sense of what's happening elsewhere. The attitude of the youth. Now, right now, this is graduation time, and the graduations have not been allowed to be carried out formally. The kids are somehow celebrating at home by themselves, which seems kind of silly to me, but okay. But if you talk to the children in your neighborhood and the youth in your neighborhood, you can get a sense of what their generation is expecting in terms of the near future. How well are they informed? How poorly are they informed? That will say a lot about how we respond to emergencies that arise near us, okay? Now, what about the indicators we're getting from the Republican Party? Do you get the idea, like I do, that they're like ostriches with their head in the sand and only doing the most absolutely critical things right now? Okay, how many 100,000 indictments were written up, and how many people have been actually charged and prosecuted for crimes against humanity and child sex trafficking and gun running and charity fraud and money laundering and all of that. How many people have been charged on all these indictments? Have we heard? Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to the desire to bring to an end the human trafficking and child sex trafficking? Where did that go? Now, we know it didn't go away, but we can't presume or assume that it's being carried forward. So this is something we're going to continue to watch. All right, prices. Have you noticed at your grocery store how much of a price increase you are looking at? I figure where I am in California, it's about a third. It's about a third increase now. And what used to cost $40 now costs $60 at the grocery store. That's here in California. Now, your price increases where you are may be different. Okay, how about food availability? What do the shelves look like? Are you going to have to stock up because you think that availability is going to go down? I always start coughing when I talk. Okay. Something else we can watch is vacancies. In our neighborhood, I noticed 2 families have moved out of the neighborhood this week. And there's quite a bit of turnover here at the apartment complex. The effect will be to suppress rents because the landlords are going to have problems filling their vacancies. Traffic. Where I live, it's right next to a major arterial. And certain times of the day, there's a lot of traffic on that arterial going to and from work because there's a military base not far from here. What I can tell you about the traffic is that it has decreased significantly since the pandemic, and it's not returning to normal yet where I am. Is it returning to normal where you are? And then I'm beginning to notice here at YouTube that there are now videos on the topic of security that I've never seen before, on the topic of vigilance, preparedness, okay? There's more preppers. There's more people paying attention to everything because of the uncertainty that we see in the mainstream media, on the internet, and everywhere. We're at a lull. We're waiting for the next shoe to drop. Who do we have? Tinfoil Hatter. Hi, sweetie. Good to see you. We're waiting for another shoe to drop. The videos on YouTube are grasping at straws, looking for topics to talk about because we really don't have much in the way of news. I have a regular friend who calls me once a week or so. And I can always tell what's in the news because of the way he you know, we all have a friend that rambles, okay, and he rambles. And what you can tell by the rambling is that there's no rhyme or reason to what he's able to glean. He can't get the point of it. He can't see where it's going. I can't see where it's going either. Now, I'm enough of a cosmology buff and a religion buff to realize that, and history buff. Okay, now if you've gotten into the mud flood studies, we've had more resets than we can account for in history. All right, I'm trying to think of flat Earth British. It has nothing to do with flat Earth. Okay, what he talks about is how the daguerreotypes and the ancient etchings and the old maps describe a history that is different from what we have learned in school, right? And in that history, particularly in the middle of the 19th century, around the 1840s, there was a horrendous mud flood that affected Europe and North America equally. All right. And that half buried lots of buildings all the way from St. Petersburg, Russia, down to New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay. So our history has not been very precise. What happened to the Empire of Tartary is unknown to us. It's not in our books. Okay. They had free energy. Why was it destroyed? What was the problem with free energy? Was there a problem with free energy? Well, if it's anything like 5G or 6G, a lot of people were being harmed. Their body cells are electric. And looks to me as if free energy is a death sentence for those people who are too close to it. Okay, but maybe I'm wrong here. Okay, these are more indicators that the leadership that we accept and embrace now is going to have to see things in a way that isn't present in academia. Academia has their doctrine and their dogma just like the church does. And the church's version of history that goes back 6,000 years and academia's version of history that goes back 6,000 years, they are equally wrong. Wrong. That's not the way it happened. All right, so when I'm saying to you, this is a time for introspection and for looking for indicators. And the indicators, we don't share opinions because opinions are like, you know what, everybody has one. But we share indicators because something that happens over there or over here or over there may affect people at some distance. You know, the butterfly effect. So if you notice that there are military movements of tanks or stuff in your area, if you notice that the traffic is either extremely heavy or extremely light, if you notice that fires are causing communities of people to disappear and the people never show up again, that's odd. If you notice these indications of change, these are the little elements of figuring out what's going on that are valuable in the social media. Okay? These are what we want to hear about. The changes in the want ads and the changes in the employment. Are there, how many businesses have gone out? How many schools are shutting down permanently? I understand. I saw an article that many of the Catholic schools are shutting down permanently. Why? Because the parents are adopting homeschooling, because they found out by looking at their children's textbooks that the Common Core curriculum teaches communist propaganda, okay, that Bill Gates and the Bill Gates Foundation paid to have developed and inflicted upon our children. There are many, many facts that we can dig up now that will point to where we need to put our foot and where we need to put our attention. And so that is where I feel we are in this era of uncertainty in the United States right now. That we are uncertain as to laws. We are uncertain as to our medical future given these designed epidemics. We're uncertain as to our military situation. We appear to be affected by military factions on the deep state, and there's the white hats and the black hats. Pay attention to all this. This is how we, as a nation, as a culture, can create a national consensus and figure out what the hell to do. And that's why social media, and that's why this medium of communication is so important now. All right, so I talked Google into letting me back in. So sometimes we have to be a little bit more tactful than we want to be. Let's see, we've got Marie, tinfoil hat, honey, I can't read at this distance. The type is too small. So what I'll do is I'll come in and read all of this that you've put in there, and I'll respond to all of it. How's that for a deal? And we'll talk. I haven't seen you in a long time. So that's what we have to do. Be vigilant, pay attention, and listen. We'll see you guys. Love you all. Bye-bye.